मैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स एंड तलबा से कहूँगा कि वो इस मुल्क का एक बहुत बड़ा असेट है और उन्हीं को आगे चल के इस मुल्क की बागडोर संभालना है।
Hello, Excellence.
What is excellence?
Excellence isn't something that happens overnight, but it's a gradual process.
Excellence is not a destination, it is a journey, and we pursue excellence every day in our lives.
Here at Integral University, we understand that every person is excellent in their own unique way, and hence we devise programs to bring out their excellence.
Imagine an engineer who can build a wall with his or her own hands. Imagine a person who just graduated and knows how to fix a bicycle or a motorcycle for that matter. Such is the skilling that our university believes in imparting to our students.
Excellence does not only means advancement in education, but also becoming socially and emotionally mature enough to face the life and facing oneself.
Hello, Excellence.
The hands-on training imparted through our agile curriculum and imparted by our faculty with considerable industrial experience in the manufacturing, corporate, agriculture, law, medical, and architecture fields, for example, allow our students to start delivering value to their employees and employers immediately.
At Integral University, pursuit of excellence is full of happiness, knowledge, friends, teachers, and yes, last but not the least, dreams.
Excellence is when you gather new knowledge every day.
Excellence is when you stay focused.
Excellence for me is setting a goal and achieve it.
That is the excellence we are targeting.
Hello, Excellence.
Hello, Excellence.
Hello, Excellence.
Hello, Excellence.
Hello, excellence.
Learn,
Grow.
Smile.
and keep going.
Welcome to the world of excellence.
Integral University, Lucknow. Inspiring excellence.
A very good afternoon to everyone who is listening me. On behalf of Department of Commerce and Business Management, Integral University, Lucknow, I, Dr. Moiz Akhtar, welcome you all to today's e-seminar on the theme Entrepreneurship and MSME Issues and Challenges. My dear friends, the question comes in mind that what is MSME? The answer is micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. The sector has emerged as a highly vibrant and dynamic sector of the Indian economy over the last 5 decades. In India, it is not only plays a crucial role in large employment opportunities at comparatively lower capital cost than large industries, but also helps in industrialization of rural and backward areas, thereby reducing regional imbalance and assuring more equitable distribution of national income and wealth, hence contributing to overall socio-economic development. But my friends, a question comes in mind that who are the person who involved in this sector? They are the basically entrepreneurs. But today, entrepreneurs are struggling to find a financial background for their business. They find any finance for new and uncertain business without collateral securities. In recent years, spectrum of new government programs are available to startups and growing businesses. Therefore, this seminar aims to provide a view of those financial needs of entrepreneurs, various government schemes, and challenges faced by micro, small, and medium sized enterprises. As it is rightly said by Peter Drucker, the entrepreneur always searches for changes, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. My dear friends, to begin the session, first I would like to introduce you to all the eminent personalities who will with us for this seminar. First, we have Professor A.K. Saxena sir, Dean, Faculty of Commerce and Management and Director, IQAC, Integral University. Then we have our invited guest, Professor Prakash Singh sir, Professor at Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. Next we have Dr. Syed Shahid Mazhar sir, Head, Department of Commerce and Management, Integral University, Lucknow, and the coordinator of this program. Now, I would like to call our first speaker, who is an visionary, passionate, and an excellent leader, Professor A.K. Saxena sir. Professor A.K. Saxena sir is having a massive teaching experience of more than 43 years and has served at various dignified cadres like head, dean, director across magnificent institutions like University of Allahabad, Bundelkhand University, Jhansi, and University of Kumaon, Almora. He has also held dynamic administrative positions like Director, AICTE, New Delhi, and University UGC Nodal Officer. With various conferences, seminars, publications, and projects to his name, this institution is blessed to have Professor A.K. Saxena sir as the mentor of this department. I request Professor A.K. Saxena sir to welcome the audience and share his critical insight to today's theme. Professor Saxena sir, kindly address the audience.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Moise. I welcome today's key speaker, Mr. Prakash Singh of Indian Institutes of Management, Lucknow, Dr. Shahid, Head of the Department of Commerce and Management, and Dr. Moise, the moderator of today's webinar. The topic of today's webinar is Entrepreneurship and MSME Issues and Challenges. Very rightly, we have selected this topic because we find that the giants are living and the small people are dying, because we have a mixed situation poor become poorest and the rich become richest. So whether you talk about the uh, micro and small medium industry enterprises, MSME or entrepreneurship, one thing is in common, that they are facing several challenges in the fields of technology, finance, operations, and marketing. Further, they also face challenges from a disruptive, competitive environment in which they must compete compete with established players in the marketplace and imports. This is the ground reality, because finance is the pivot around which the entire business revolves. Most of the success story and the failure story of the entrepreneurs and the MSME revolves around the, in fact, financial component, financing, or say low, soundness of the situation. Now, before we go ahead, we should have a conceptual clarity about the entrepreneurship. You see, since our participants to whom I must have welcomed in the beginning, our dear students and teachers, participants are much more inclined to have an idea. That is, what is it precise is the entrepreneurship apart from the literary or literature jargon which is given in the different books. You see, when a child cries or when a child is crying, so the child is either hungry or is ill, giving indication to mother to fulfill his or her desire and need, maybe in terms of medicine or maybe in terms of, say, milk. That too by making efforts on the part of the child as well as on the part of the mother. And if required, then of course a doctor is called. So what is emphasized is called efforts, and that is the key point of the entrepreneur, that an entrepreneur has to all the time make some effort. That is what we call as to survive. One has to strive and thrive to prove the Darwin's principle of the survival of the to the survival of the fastest to today in 21st century, survival of the most competitive. As charity begins at home, where all concerned make appropriate effort at appropriate time, the father earns and the dependents are the wife and the children's. So he has to cater to their needs. For that purpose, he has to do some jobs. For jobs, he has to make efforts. And his efforts would not be only financial, would be technical, social, socio-political, environmental, and of course societal and others. And that too at an appropriate time, at an appropriate level, in an appropriate quantity, and of course that is overall appropriate effort. Similarly, in industrial setup, individuals and group make extra and additional efforts, what we call de novo efforts. Industry, the people who are serving in management, whatever HLA on they belong to, cadre they belong to, from the junior most to the senior most, what we call, all have to make, I mean, the people, the policy makers, decision makers have to make effort, what we call as de novo efforts. Sometimes we call as de novo decision making, something new all the time. That is what is called innovation. And innovation is the thrust in our entrepreneurship. If we say what is innovation, innovation means नव प्रवर्तन, कुछ नया कर जाना. अभी आपने देखा, अभी दशहरा आ रहा है, दीपावली आ रही है, इसके पहले रक्षाबंधन निकल गया. आपने कहा कैडबरीज I'm proud to say a student named Amit Upadhyay, who has done MBA from my parent old organization where I have served, that is Bundelkhand University, Jhansi. He has, in fact, coined the word "kuch meetha ho jaye" that Amitabh Bachchan has been made to do in Cadbury's, and that has catched the idea that you find that packaged of the Cadbury's chocolates are being sold world over. He has been a country manager in the Cadbury's. That is what we call as innovation, and that you can always see in marketing slogans, in marketing advertisings or copies, that all the time something catchy, something new, something touching, something emotional which catches you. That's what we call it motivational, which makes you to move, to drive you to new, and you are bound to think of that, yes, I am doing something new to the people, something new to the organization, and that is then you are a real entrepreneur. If we go to the authorities, it was Professor Mackland who has said that entrepreneur is a risk taker, which is very, very important. No risk, no gain. There is no scope of a scope in a business unless you take risk. Because if you have 1,000 crores of rupee on your table and you are not in a position to take any risk or think of where to do, it might sunk, it might give you profits. So you have to taking of some risks. That happens in the investments. People who are dealing in the finance, in the shares and investments and stock holdings. So that was the Mackland. Then came Professor Mackland himself. If he's only risk taker and as well and only a risk taker, he should be a risk taker as well as innovator. So if we make an equation, then entrepreneur E is equal to RT, risk taker, plus innovator I. So E is equal to RT plus I. That is the complete definition of an entrepreneur. You see, inherent zeal and enthusiasm is required at all levels. Here I am bound to refer to the McGregor theory X and Y, which our most of the students of undergraduates, BA, BCom and BBA, and MBA and MCom, they know it. Theory X, which Douglas H. McGregor has said, that people are inherently lazy. They have no ambition for life. They are happy whatever they have got, and therefore those the group of people in an organizations are very dangerous. They need to be motivated. They need to be taken with the carrot and stick rule, and they need to have some motivation and punitive action so that they get the job done. Then there are people and the workers who belong to the theory Z, who are inherently enthusiastic with lot of zeal, bubbling energy. They take initiative. They are initiators. The slightest opportunity they get, and they go and fulfill your expectations more than required, what you want, and they are said to be the people who are to given the high priority in the organization. So overall, you can group the people in an organization, whether it is MSME or small or large or micro or heavy or heaviest organization industries, you find these two groups of people in an organization. So if we trace the genesis of entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship vis-a-vis face-to-face MSME, micro, small and medium enterprises, and try to trace the genesis of the industrial tree, what we call the industrial tree, MSME, large, heaviest enterprises as a whole, there is a sea of difference between the issues faced by the MSMEs and entrepreneurs, but few are common. Like I said, financial aspects are pretty common to all of them, to both MSME and entrepreneurs. Who run the entrepreneurs? Who run the MSMEs? Entrepreneurs run the MSMEs, because you see, Organizations are made up of is not made up. Organizations are made up of brick and stones, but who makes them operational? Who makes them to work and functional? It is you and me, the people, the workers, and the employees. Whether they belong to lower management group, what we call as operational control, or middle management group, what we call as management control, or which a top management group, what we call as strategic planner or strategic planning people. You see, the common points or the issues in front of our MSMEs and entrepreneurs are particularly technical, economical, political, environmental, ethical, legal, and other issues. Out of that, you see today, ethical issues has attained lot of importance apart from the legal and political issues which are created. You see, other day I was going to a WhatsApp that a CEO of an American company, like very currently you must have heard about Shiv Nadar, who has passed on the reins of his organization to his daughter. Before that, Infosys has done with K. Narayan Murthy. Before that, Wipro has done, Azim Premji. They have all passed on the reign of command to their the respective people, son or daughters, or to other capable people. That American CEO gave a bunch of seeds to many prospective high officers or executives of the organization on inviting them on a cup of tea and coffee. And I said, I am giving these seeds to you. And after 1 year, you will come and tell me the growth of that seed. Then I'll decide that who will take the reign of the company. So what has happened? One person, other person, and almost all, they have started giving the required sunshine, fertilizer, and water to the seed given by the CEO, the chairman and managing director, or you can say chief executive officer or chief operating officer, whatever American or Indian organization pattern it is. You see, one of the executive found that his seed started dying. His seed started dying, and he was much frustrated and disappointed that his seed is not growing. But other people's seed started growing, giving the sign of growth and development of the organization. And therefore, the time passes, and after 1 year, all went to that meeting to show the development of that growth of that seed. And then everybody was, all those whose seed has grown in proportions were confident that today I will control the reign of the organization and become the top position which our earlier predecessor was obtaining. Now I'll be his successor. But to your surprise, to my surprise, not with a dismay, you find that the CEO has given the reign of the company to that executive who was disappointed, with down face, no cheer on the face, and he was depressive, and he was said little, pessimistic. All it's like in a very low ebb because his seed has died out. But when asked that why you are making me the CEO, others said why you are making him CEO. His seed is not showing any sign of growth and development. But the CEO said, look, he is honest. He has not changed the seed. I have given you all the boiled seed, and you rest of you all CEO have changed the seed. But this gentleman has been honest, with integrity intact, honesty intact, and you see esteem intact, and belongingness intact, employees involvement intact, and just a quality of work life and the quality circle which Japanese say. His honesty, that he tried to sow that seed which was boiled and died. That's why seed could not grow. So he is the person who deserves to be the CEO of my company. So this is called ethical issues, values and ethics in management. corporate social responsibility of business, which is very important for the growth and development of the MSMEs, which most of the MSMEs are dying today in spite of all the efforts made by the government day in and day out. This entrepreneurial capital is required. So an entrepreneur has to be holy like Ganga, of course, clever like a fox, but he should be crafty. He should have a vision, a mission, a foresight, and after all, over and above honesty and the values, believe in values and ethics. So what is important is to strike a balance between the MSME and the entrepreneurs, who are the two, I would say, the part of a taraju, was shown by a sign, zodiac sign Libra, which is a backbone of today's industrial setup. Not talk of MNCs and TNCs, that is multinational corporations and the transnational corporations, which are the biggest example of entrepreneurs today. You see, the entire world has been galvanized, revolutionized from 1991 with the then economic reforms movement, the then industrial movement, captioned by the word LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization, which our current Prime Minister was the Finance Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, and a person who has died, PV Narasimha Rao Sahab, was the Prime Minister of the country. With that LPG, which is in the second and the third stage, third generation of the movement, has given a new horizon to entrepreneurship and a paradigm shift to the conceptual overture of entrepreneurship. Today, the regulatory bodies, entrepreneurship and MSME, that says a conceptual paradigm shift in the conceptual overture. It's not that the old definition which works. Our regulatory bodies, which are responsible for the growth and development of the MSMEs, and which are responsible for the growth and development of the entrepreneur through the training and development by MDP, EDPs, workshops, seminars, symposia, and different types of academic meetings. They are NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India, IDBI, Industrial Development Bank of India, CDB, Small Industrial Development Bank of India, and over and above the apex body, the Reserve Bank of India. All regulatory bodies have given new meaning to entrepreneurship and MSME, a new direction to grow as the biggest bottleneck in the growth and development of the entrepreneurship and or MSME are concerned. So far, they are concerned that entrepreneurship and MSME are one and the one issue, that is financial issue, other than the political and the legal and ethical issues. You see, loaning, reloaning, debt, bad debt, scams, all happens. You see, many scams happen in the IT company. The first scam started from the Harshad Mehta, 1991 to this date. Then the Satyam scam, and the main scam, the Automac scam, the coal scam, the Colgate scam. I mean, these people have run away the country, the Kingfisher man and the Nirav Modi and so many people. These scams happened. So it is all the financial aspects. The regulatory bodies could not check them, and the loan becomes bad loan, and the bad loan. And Abhi, the government of India has again make an effort to the Reserve Bank of India to recirculate, give the rupee to the lakhs of point of time, lakhs of tune to the lakhs of rupee, so that these can be revived and taken back, rehabilitated to its normal health. And that is what is said to be very, very important. Whether they are sick managerially, economically, operationally, they have to be rehabilitated to its normal health, managerially, operationally, and financially, by revamping, what we call as facelifting. So the entrepreneurship and the shoulder to shoulder to achieve the targets of growth and development of Indian economy in this 21st century by achieving the laid down vision, mission, objectives, goals and targets, which is the prime duty of an entrepreneur and say the acid test for the growth and development of the MSME. With these words, thank you very much for giving me patient hearing. I'm pretty sure our learned expert, Professor Prakash Singh, would further enlighten you with, because he's sitting at the real life business situation, being in IIM, conducting lot many MDs, MDP, EDPs compared to us, being more in touch with the industrial setup, MSMEs, entrepreneurs, and all these bodies that will enrich your experiences. Thank you very much.
Sir, you have given some very classified comments on clarity of entrepreneurships, role of entrepreneur, building blocks of SMME, traits of entrepreneurs, value and ethics related to MSME, and balance between entrepreneur and MSME. And we highly appreciate your valuable input, sir. Thank you so much. Audience is requested to post any query in the chat session, which will be later answered during the question answer session. Now, my dear friends, I would like to call our next speaker of this session, Professor Prakash Singh, sir. Dr. Prakash Singh is a professor of banking at IIM Lucknow, where he has been teaching in finance and account area since 2006. Basically, he is Bachelor in Engineering in Mechanical Engineering from HBTI Kanpur, and he has done his Masters from Lucknow University and hold PhD from BITS Pilani. After that, he has done his postdoc from University of Texas. He also serves as independent director on the board of non-banking financial company microfinance institution and also an advisory board of UP Power Corporation, SIDBI, LMA, and many other organizations. He has also done various training sessions, consulting assignments with big companies, which is basically Maharatna or Navratna companies like SAIL, ONGC, NTPC, BHAIL, Indian Railways, and many more. His research contributions have been published in various peer-reviewed journals. He is also the faculty convener at SIDBI Center for Innovation in Financial Inclusion at IIM Lucknow. It is a SIDBI-sponsored incubation center promoting a startup in the space of fintech. I request Professor Prakash Singh, sir, to kindly address the audience. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Moise. First of all, let me congratulate Integral University for taking up this very useful topic, because normally universities and business departments talk about large corporations, and it is very rarely we see that there is some serious discussion around MSMEs. We are also part of the blame to take for, because in business schools, typically the discussion moves around large corporates, Fortune 500 companies. Even if we talk about Indian companies, we'll talk about the Reliances, the Tatas, and the Birlas of the world. We really don't sensitize students on the importance of this sector. Okay, so congratulations once again for bringing this topic. And what I'm intending to do here in maybe 20-25 minutes is taking you through the landscape of what exactly MSMEs are, and then looking at what are their current situation, what does the government do for them, and why it is not always enough. I mean, because we keep on hearing that there's so much which has been done for MSMEs. Then if there is so much which has been done for MSMEs, then why it is that they still face problems? So some of the issues, it's a very large topic. It requires maybe 3-4 hours of discussion. So in a nutshell, I will try to present what my understanding is about this sector and what are the 3 or 4 very serious challenges which the sector faces. That's how I'm going to do this. I will be sharing my uh, presentation with you so that you can also take into uh, this thing. So can you see the presentation? Just let me know. Yes. Is the presentation visible to you,
Yes,
Dr.
so it
Moin?
is visible.
Okay. So this is the structure in which I have framed the small talk. Who and what is an MSME and why are they so critical for the Indian economy? That's what we say, trying to do a status check as to the, because the name itself is very confusing, micro, small, and medium enterprise, and we'll tell you why it is so confusing. Then I talk about the intangible issue with that, which is the rural cousin syndrome, which we always talk about, and a reality check in terms of what exactly they are going through, and in the current scenario, the scenes, the challenges, and what should be the ideal response. Let me start with some of the intangible issues first. So the biggest issue which comes to our mind when we talk about MSME sector is the rural cousin syndrome. Now let me explain to some of you what is this rural cousin. So we all uh, of us are lucky people born in cities, studied in good schools, went to good colleges. But then we always have a cousin in our family who lives in a smaller city or a town. And once in a while during our festivals like Diwali or Eid, we meet up with that cousin. That cousin always has that syndrome or uh, that a small difference in the personality, that cousin doesn't gel with the city cousins so nicely, and you try to bring them in, but you find that they are not willing to come along with you, and you love them, you like them, but somehow they are not really like you. So we call that the rural cousin syndrome, and that is what exactly MSMEs get, because even in business schools where these things should be told to our next breed of managers, even entrepreneurship is an elective course which is offered. So we really don't want the educational system is not really incentivized to produce a lot of entrepreneurs in this country, and that too in MSME space, normally not, because what we train our students is to go and work for large corporations. That's what they're aspiring for. Nobody really sees an aspiration of setting up their own enterprise. So that's a big mistake which business schools have been doing over and for so many years. The engineering institutions have really done good there. So I would like to uh, point out that the IITs and the engineering colleges have still done better, but the business schools have been very poor in terms of producing entrepreneurs. So that's one area which I wanted to highlight right at the outset, because we as academicians have a role there, have a responsibility there. And that's why I think that this is a very opportune moment to bring in such topics for discussion. Okay, so keep that in mind that we have never really given the MSME the status which they deserve, although their size is very big, although they employ so many people, but they have never given that kind of a recognition, and they normally carry a rural cousin syndrome. So definition wise, MSMEs, we all know these statistics, so I'm not really going to read them. But we know that 30% of India's GDP comes from MSMEs. So you can just imagine how big they are. There are close to 65 lakh MSMEs in India, employing 6 crore people. And this is official figure. So unofficially, it could be easily twice this number. So around 15 to 20 crore people in this country are working in the MSME space. And you can imagine how big they are. And then they contribute 30% of the country's GDP. In terms of geographical distribution, look at where we are. Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Bihar, and Andhra. These 6, 7 states account for almost 50%. But the interesting thing is, which is a positive thing, that they are very intertwined in each other. For example, I have written an example here in the textile sector. Cotton is bought in the western parts of India. Yarn is spun down here in UP and in Gujarat. Weaving takes place again in south, and the apparel is manufactured in clusters in the north and south. So you can see that MSMEs have a local culture, but then the local culture is so intertwined that it becomes a national character. So MSMEs are very special. That's what this slide basically tells me. Now, this is where I said there is a problem in the understanding of the terminology itself. If you look closely, just observe one figure, which is the definition is micro, small, and medium enterprise. And 99% of the enterprise are in a segment called micro. So even a child of class 10th, maybe a 15-year-old child, can see what is the problem here. Problem is the definition is a problem, because the way I define micro industries, the way I define small industries, and the way I define medium enterprises, the definition is so skewed that almost 99% of the companies actually qualify for micro enterprise, and only 0.5 and 0.01 qualify for small and medium. So you can understand where is the challenge starting from. I mean, where is the exact challenge? The exact challenge is therefore that most of the MSMEs are very small, right? And they fall under the micro category. Recently, we have a change in the definition. So this is the new definition. If you want to relate what exactly is the definition. So we have definition investment wise, and we have a definition turnover wise. So investment means what kind of plant and machinery, what amount of investment would be required initially, and turnover would be how much you will sell in the entire year. Now, these two approaches are used to define a micro and a small and a medium enterprise. Before 20th, somewhere during the lockdown period, they made this change, and it's a very welcome change. If you see, earlier the definition of micro enterprise was very small. For a manufacturing enterprise, it was less than 25 lakhs. So you can very well understand that any enterprise which has an investment of less than 25 lakhs will qualify as a micro enterprise. Any investment, any firm with an investment up to 5 crores will qualify as a small, and anything less than 10, between 5 and 10, is qualified as medium. Significant change has been made here. 25 lakhs has been increased to 1 crore, 5 has been 10. So they are increasing the size. Now, what is the objective? Numbers can be discussed later on, but what is the objective? The objective is that we want this SME sector to become little larger, because till the time they remain small, you will understand that the amount of technology or the amount of investment which they can bring in will remain small, and therefore they will be unproductive. If I am trying to manufacture something, if I'm trying to manufacture a soap, and if I want to remain a MSME, I will not have to cross my investment beyond 20 crores. Because the moment I go beyond 20 crores of investments, I will cease to be an MSME, and all that benefits which I get out of being an MSME will be lost to me. So there is a disincentive to become big, and we all understand that economies of scale come to you only when you are big, when you bring in large technology, when you bring in new machines, when you bring in a technology from abroad. For that to happen, the investment window is just 20 crores. So the problem also lies in the way we have been defining the definition of micro, small, and medium enterprise. Uh, this is a one sentence which I want you to understand, that firms are incentivized to remain small in order to reap the benefit of the schemes and policies. A perverse incentive for firms to remain small, because I am small, I get benefit. If I become big, I will lose those benefits. Problem is, if you remain small, your productivity is very poor, and in international market, you won't be able to compete, not only in terms of cost but also in terms of quality. If you have to compete in global markets, you have to bring in quality. For that quality to come in, you will have to invest in technology. To invest in technology, you may lose the MSME tag. So it's a catch-22 situation. What does the government do for them? So let's look at quickly the advantage of being an MSME. First is MSME qualify for priority sector lending. So all the banks would be required to do 40% of their lending to priority sector, and in priority sector, one of the categories is MSME. So you can understand that they will get preference in terms of the lending portfolio. Then there are a lot of credit guarantee schemes that I will give you a collateral free credit. The most important thing is the benefits in tendering, because this is something which I have worked very closely with the UP state government also, that whenever a government project is initiated, it is ensured that 25 to 30% of the total amount of contract will flow towards MSME. Okay, so even if it is a simple building construction which is going on, the government is planning and building for some office, 25-30% of the total project cost would go to MSMEs for, let's say, plumbing work, electrical fitting work. That has to go to them. So the advantages which MSME get, not only in terms of easy access to credit, lower cost of capital, but also access to market, which is the government has to make sure that 25-30% of their order goes to MSMEs. These are all there on paper, and you would be wondering, then why doesn't it work? Because if all this is there, the banks are there to lend, there would be a purchase preference policy, there would be a benefit in tendering, and that's why companies don't want to go out of this MSME tag. Where is the problem then? Why doesn't it work? Let's come to the reality check in terms of what is already laid down and what doesn't happen. This is the discussion on. So the problem with MSMEs in terms of if all this was so good, then why are they facing problems? Is because of compliance, and more compliance. See, please understand, when GST came, it was a very novel step. It was a very good step to bring all my enterprises under a government umbrella. But the problem is some of these SMEs can't really afford a person who will be just sitting there to file GST norms, GST compliances, because these forms are many, and there were so many corrections made in those forms. First they said it has to be filled every month, then they said it is every quarter, then they said it is every week. So many changes, and SMEs don't have that luxury. Okay, so lot of cost MSMEs time is wasted on compliance, which they don't want because they can't afford. It's because they are small and they can't afford a chartered accountant or a separate person or individual who can work on their GST compliance. Second problem, which is very genuine in the current COVID situation, because I have a lot of my friends in the MSME space in my hometown in Varanasi and Lucknow also. They keep on saying that your government is not doing enough, right? And look at US. There the government has made sure that all MSMEs employees would be paid directly in their bank account, and all that will be taken care of. So they are getting $1,200 in their salary accounts, irrespective of whether they are coming to work or not, because it's a pandemic situation. Let me explain to you this beautifully, because it has come out very clearly why it doesn't happen. Now, most of these SMEs, as I was talking in the previous discussion, want to remain small. And one of the reasons why they want to remain small is because they want to run away from compliance requirements. I'm not saying the intent is malified. No, the intent is not malified. They are worried about the compliance processes which they don't want to get into. Okay, so they hide away. They try to hide away from the government lens, and it works for them in good times, because if things are good and they are not coming under the government umbrella, I mean, they may not have to pay for the compliances, and all those things can be taken care of. The problem is when the situation is bad, and if the government actually wants to help you, you are not visible. So visibility is a challenge in MSME, because we don't want to provide that visibility, because if I am visible, then I am under the government lens. But if you are not visible, then the government can't help you. So that's a very interesting situation which emerged in COVID, that a lot of MSMEs could not get help because they were not registered anywhere. So if you are not registered, how can government help you? Because government can't go door to door finding out which is an MSME and how many people are working, and I can provide them some wage subsidy. If that data was available with the government, that these are the 10,000 MSMEs in Lucknow, and these are the 40,000 people working in that those 10,000 MSMEs, a credit transfer from the government could have happened. It has still happened, but it has happened only for registered MSMEs. So it's a very difficult choice which MSMEs have to make, that do you want to become visible? Because if you become visible, then you have to face compliances, then you have to file GST norms, and you have to answer a lot of questions. If you remain small, you don't want to be visible, then the government cannot help you in bad times. So it's a catch 22 situation for them also, that do you want to be visible or do you don't want to be visible? If you don't want to be visible, then you don't have any right to complain in difficult times. Okay, we talked a lot about MSME financing, and we said that there's a special window for them in the banks. Banks are asked to give them as a priority sector lending. But the fact of the matter is, banks are really nervous while lending to MSMEs. So my specialization is in banking, and I have been talking to all kind of bankers, small, big, multinational banks. All of them want to lend to this sector, but they're extremely worried about the amount of information which is coming from this sector. The problem is this. So, for example, a trader who is like, let's say, um, this thing, retail store who sells these daily needs product like atta, rice, and all that stuff, they can easily get a bank loan. But the problem is that they don't want to show those papers to the bank. So banks are really worried about that if we give them lending without papers or without proper due diligence, then they may face an inquiry internally. And therefore, many times banks, even if they want to lend to an MSME, they can't really do it because the kind of information which they need before they lend is just not coming, because MSMEs don't have that information in a very structured manner which a large organization has. So see, you can see here there is an intent to give money to them, but the process is not laid down. The right kind of processes are not laid down. Now we have development like fintechs are coming, which are trying to bridge that gap between MSMEs and banks. So a MSME can go to a fintech company. That fintech company will do the due diligence of the MSME and then provide them a score. With that score, the MSME can go to a bank and take that loan. So those things are happening, but still it's a long way to go where the banks are comfortable with lending to MSMEs. They will lend if the government asks. If the government provides guarantee, they will lend. But again, that is limited to uh, uh, only a few registered MSMEs, because a large number of MSMEs are not really registered anywhere. The other big issue which creates problem in this sector is the delay in the payments. So one of my friends recently, I was talking to him over phone. He said, "Loan won to chodo yaar, payment hi karwa do," because that is another thing which uh, kind of chokes their liquidity. Because if the liquidity is choked, they can't really work. So they don't sit on a lot of surplus liquidity or surplus cash. And MSMEs face problem when the payments get delayed. And almost a very large borrower or a very large customer of these MSMEs is government. So if the government just releases the payments, that will be more than enough. That rather than talking about the bank providing additional financing and so on. So the other problem which they face is not only in terms of not getting proper loans from the formal channel. The other problem is that the payments get delayed, and one of the biggest customer is government. So the government can just pay them on time, it will solve half of the problem. For example, GST refunds. GST refund itself, the credit refunds itself takes more than 3 to 6 months sometimes, and the small and medium enterprises can't really afford a delay of 3 to 6 months because it chokes their liquidity. Uh, Basically, government is trying to do its bit uh, to minimize the impact, facilitate credit support, protecting income and employment, particularly the vulnerable section of the society, through direct cash transfers. But all this would not be really very useful if we bring, unless and until we bring structural changes. And structural changes, as I talked about in the initial part, is about uh, redefining the whole space, giving incentives to become big. I've spoken to so many people in this sector. They say the moment I have a factory And the moment my factory has more than 100 employees, I will come under labor laws. All these things will start. So what I do is I open one factory. The moment the number of workers in that factory become 95, I open another factory, and therefore I will never get the uh, attention of the government. I don't want to get the attention of the government. That attitude has to change in the MSME space. The government has to reach out to them and say that don't worry, if you have crossed 100, the labor department will not trouble you unnecessarily. That kind of trust is not there, because of which the SMEs fear that if they become big, they will come under government lens, and then a lot of questions would be asked which they have never really replied in the past. So that trust mechanism has to be built. That confidence is still not there in the MSME space, that they are ready to go to the state and talk about trying to become big and trying to be transparent. So that's specifically my two things. One is try to incentivize the SMEs to become larger, because if they become larger, they will become more productive, and they will be able to compete not only in the Indian market but in the global markets also. And secondly, you have to build that trust and that confidence between the state and the MSME, that if you become big doesn't mean you come under government umbrella, doesn't mean that you will be haunted and you will be troubled by the various tax departments and law enforcing departments. If that is taken care of, half of the problem of the SME sector is taken care of. And lastly, the responsibility which we as academicians and people at business schools have is to create that kind of mindset in the people, in the students, that it is not always desirable to work for large companies. Even if two or three of you join hands and small something of your own, that also is an acceptable job proposition in the society. That is that is a task or a responsibility which we all as academicians should have. It is not about somebody who gets a corporate job, only he or she should be appreciated. Somebody who has started something of his own, struggling, yes, initially they will struggle, but we as academicians have to support that student as much as we support somebody who has got a job in a large organization. Thank you. That would be all from my side.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable inputs on problems and issues faced by MSMEs and entrepreneurs, to discuss something about that these enterprises should be promoted on a larger scales, about the new ministry policies, new rates which they have revised during this pandemic situation, about the help or the situation where they can be contribute towards these entrepreneurs. But the most important thing, which I personally don't know, that these entrepreneurs, these MSMEs are practically not visible to the government. They are trying to show that they are still as a small enterprise. So this is a valuable input which you have given, sir. We have one or two questions from the chat box. Sir, I'm sharing the first question to you. A student has asked the question that there are various schemes and programs launched by government, but still there is lack of sufficient finance at affordable interest rate. Why?
Yeah, I think I touched upon this issue, but since I think there were a lot of issues which you're talking about, see, banks have a very clear charter in terms of how will they lend to anybody, right? And that comes in only two forms: that either the borrower has the ability to repay, and plus added to that would be intention to repay. Now, the intention to repay is very high in MSME and is very poor in large corporations. The point which your Dean Saab was talking about, that big borrowers escape from this country. So they have the intent to repay is very small, because they know that they can grease the system and they can move out. But the small borrowers have the incentive to repay, but they don't have the capability to repay. At least on paper, they are not able to demonstrate that. So there has to be a mechanism through which the government will support them, the bank, and say, okay, you go ahead and lend. If they don't pay, if they default, or if they have some problems, we will pay on our behalf, which is called corporation credit guarantee schemes which the government does. But then we have to understand that the state also has a very limited budget. They can't really go on saying that all 56,000 crores or 100,000 crores of SME loans would be guaranteed by the state. So our state, and particularly in UP, the state is not so rich that they can support all the MSMEs through credit guarantees. So they do their bit, but yes, your question is absolutely right that many MSMEs will still not be able to get the credit from the banking system, and therefore they go to the informal banking system where the interest rates are very high. It could be as high as 35, 40% per annum, 3 or 4% per month. But they are left with no other choice because a small trader will not get a loan from a bank. And please keep that in mind that there are many traders, I know for sure in Lucknow, who are very big, but they don't trust the state at all. Okay, I sometimes I go here for my daily this thing cereal shopping, and there is a very famous provision store right in front of the railway line. I'm missing its name. It's a very large shop. It has an atta chakki also, and they give you the best cereals, besan, suji, and all that stuff. I have consistently asked him, "Ki boss, do you want any support from a bank so that you can take it to the next level?" He's not ready because he just doesn't trust the banks and the state. So he is doing a lot of volume and turnover, but it doesn't get reported. So problem is, if you don't report, then I can't give you money. That's the problem in formal system. In a formal system, you have to report, then only I can give money. If you don't report, then I can't give you on face value. So that's the challenge with the SMEs will always face, that whether you will open up and go and believe in the state and nobody will haunt you, because the experience has been bad. The moment this provision store will go to a bank and get it registered and whatever, they may have a problem. First problem which I see is that they have a lot of kids working in their shop. Child labor will be enforced. The labor inspector will come and immediately put a penalty of some 1,000 rupees on them because he has employed child labor. And below 18, you can't really deploy a child to work. So whether you want to come under the government lens and comply versus I will remain small, I will get my money from somewhere, is the call which has to be taken.
Thank you, sir. One more question is there. How could one handle underutilization of capacity related to resources? The question is related to various resources which is being used by these enterprises. They face many problems in getting them. So what can be your suggestion for those?
The one of the many things which I have come across, particularly in manufacturing space in MSME, is people invest a lot of money in creating the capacity, and then later on the utilization is very poor, and it drops down to as low as 30-40%. In the maybe in first 2 years you have a capacity utilization which is good, and later on the capacity utilization is gone. So I don't have a ready-made solution for this. We all know what can be done, but one of the things which have really struck me in a very positive way is resource sharing. So I recently, not recently, 2-3 years back, we were visiting a dairy milk plant in Kanpur, which had a capacity utilization of 10,000 liters of milk every day. Just imagine this, 10,000 liters of milk every day. And they were getting something like 2,000 liters of milk every day. That's the only milk they were getting. It's a government dairy, so you can understand. 10,000 कैपेसिटी है, 2,000 लीटर दूध आ रहा है. तो मैंने उससे पूछा मैनेजर से कि यार ये चला कैसे रहे हो, मतलब हाउ आर यू रनिंग दिस प्लांट एट 20% कैपेसिटी. ऑफ कोर्स गवर्नमेंट है तो सैलरी आ जाएगा ये. So he showed me something very interesting. There is a very big private player whom I personally know. I don't want to name them. You can know they are very big in Kanpur because they have pan masala also, and now they have milk also. So what did they do? This dairy which had underutilized capacity, they have given their plant to be used by them for assembly only. Okay. And for every milk product every milk packet which was getting assembled in my plant, I will take 1 rupee per milk packet. So 20,000 is the capacity, 2,000 is my milk, 15,000 is the competitor's milk which I am packaging in my plant. I am getting 1 rupees every day from one packet. So 15,000 packets, 15,000 rupees I pocket every day. That is enough to pay my fixed overheads like my employees, electricity bill. वो तो कम नहीं होगा ना. So that will not disappear. So there are ways in which people have been able to find out a way to utilize the underutilized resources, but there is no quick fix solution as such. Because I have seen many plants creating capacities and then later on not able to run even at 40-50%. The only thing is you can become a contract manufacturer. That is the only thing which comes to mind. That become a contract manufacturer for somebody big. You lose your brand, but at least your plant is running and your capacity is getting used. So you may not be selling your own brand, you must be selling somebody else's brand, but your capacity is getting used, which in management parlance we call contract manufacturing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Totally agree on your valuable input, sir. I will be taking the last question because of lacking of time. This question is for Professor Saxena, sir. Am I audible to Saxena, sir?
Yes, yes.
Sir, this one is raised a question. What precautions should we take while entering the sector as an entrepreneur? I'm repeating the question, sir.
Okay.
What precautions should we take while entering in this sector as an entrepreneur? Your comment, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now, first and the basic emphasis is that the entrepreneurs should take this as an opportunity startups. But they should always remember that India lives in the rural areas. India is a basically agrarian rural economy. The birth of the MSMEs have been to cater to the needs of the rural areas. So never think of that by venturing into MSME and getting an MSME project, they will become a millionaire overnight and they will run to the urban areas, number one. Number two, they should have confidence in the project, should not be half-hearted effort. Number three, they should be honest enough in their dealing. Number four, as I already said, no neglect of rural areas. They have to give equal preference to the rural and urban areas, take lessons from urban areas, but try to apply to the rural areas. Then they should do the constant monitoring of their project which has been granted by the government through the appraisal system and have confidence in the government machinery. Number six, no misuse of funds, that is escape and run. No. Take lessons from NGOs, principles and practices here. How the NGOs who are selflessly working and they are becoming successful, and in fact it's a MSME is a service to the rural areas, to the nation, through the rural, by and by to the urban, by and by to the nation, and a nation is being represented by the rural area in a country like India. Number eight, they should believe in the principle of cooperation. That is two principles of cooperation: all for each and each for all, and self-help and mutual help. All for each and each for all, self-help and mutual help. Combined all these 8 points, the 8 precautions, they can very well enter and venture out with their entrepreneurial capability and capacities and take up a project in the MSME. I am pretty confident that they will get success. Success would be theirs and service would be for the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your recommendable comments. With this, we come to the end of this seminar. Today's seminar has been one of the most enlightened and appropriate for the current business scenario. On behalf of the organizing committee, I take this opportunity of acknowledge the efforts of all the parties who have contributed to the smooth and successful conduct of this seminar. Thank you, sir. I'm thankful to Professor Prakash Singh, sir, Professor A.K. Saxena, sir, for giving their valuable comments on the theme entrepreneurship and MSMEs. On behalf of Department of Commerce and Business Management, Integral University, I would like to extend my heartiest vote of thanks to our Chancellor and Founder, Professor S.W. Akhtar sir, for allowing and motivating us to do such kind of interaction. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank our Dean, Professor A.K. Saxena sir, and Dr. Shayyad Shahid Mazhar sir, who believed in me and gave me this opportunity to conduct this session. I would also acknowledge the presence of our esteemed guest, Professor Prakash Singh sir, for sparing his valuable time. Today, we had an opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this will surely be going to encourage us in future events. Your thoughts have enlightened us, our mind, and have shown a new path. I'm also very grateful to all the faculty members who are directly or indirectly involved in this seminar. Last but not the least, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our heartily thanks to the interactive audience of our session, especially our students, for making this seminar a huge success. With this, we reach to the end of the program. I hope everyone had learned a lot, and we will meet again for some more intellectual discussion in future. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Moiz, I take this privilege to thank Professor Prakash Singh Saab to have a spare time and participate in this webinar. And I'm also grateful to our Pro-Chancellor Sayyid Nadeem Akhtar Saab, who constantly encourages along with his fatherly figure, Professor Chancellor our Akhtar Saab, Sayyid Akhtar Saab, and particularly the guests who have come and the participants who have, I am sure they have enriched this with this webinar. Thank you, Professor Prakash Singh Saab. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
It was an honor, and we will try to meet in person when this pandemic thing is over. We will definitely try to meet up in person.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
मैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स एंड तलबा से कहूँगा कि वो इस मुल्क का एक बहुत बड़ा असर है और उन्हीं को आगे चल के इस मुल्क की बागडोर संभालना है।
Hello, Excellence.
What is excellence?
Excellence isn't something that happens overnight, but it's a gradual process.
Excellence is not a destination, it is a journey, and we pursue excellence every day in our lives.
Here at Integral University, we understand that every person is excellent in their own unique way, and hence we devise programs to bring out their excellence.
Imagine an engineer who can build a wall with his or her own hands. Imagine a person who just graduated and knows how to fix a bicycle or a motorcycle for that matter. Such is the skilling that our university believes in imparting to our students.
Excellence does not only means advancement in education, but also becoming socially and emotionally mature enough to face the life and facing oneself.
Hello, Excellence.
The hands-on training imparted through our agile curriculum and imparted by our faculty with considerable industrial experience in the manufacturing, corporate, agriculture, law, medical, and architecture fields, for example, allow our students to start delivering value to their employees and employers immediately.
At Integral University, pursuit of excellence is full of happiness, knowledge, friends, teachers, and yes, last but not the least, dreams.
Excellence is when you gather new knowledge every day.
Excellence is when you stay focused.
Excellence for me is setting a goal and achieve it.
That is the excellence we are targeting.
Hello, Excellence.
Hello, excellence. Hello, excellence.
Hello, Excellence.
Hello, excellence.
Learn,
Grow,
Smile.
and keep going.
Welcome to the world of excellence.
Integral University Lucknow. Inspiring excellence.